Last week, the FTC allowed the $39 billion merger of AstraZeneca-Alexion, marking the Biden administration's first antitrust move. But it's not the only merger waived by the FTC. Two other big mergers in the pharmaceutical industry were cleared as well. So what does this all indicate?
Our next guest, Matt Stoller, noted this may be a signal to Wall Street Biden hasn't made antitrust a priority in his agenda. Matt, you track this space really closely. First of all, why does it matter, and what exactly are you seeing?
Yeah, so there's something going on here that people aren't paying attention to, which is, but all people on Wall Street are. There is a merger boom, right? Which means that companies are buying each other. There's a kind of frenzy for it, and private equity firms are buying other companies. And this seems like kind of a boring, unimportant thing, but what's really happening is that means you're consolidating wealth and power into a smaller and smaller group of hands. And some of the ways that we see this are through shortages. High lumber prices, semiconductors, and so on and so forth. But the basic problem is when you consolidate power, you reduce wages, you reduce jobs, you raise inequality, you create shortages of key products, and so on and so forth. So what do we do about this? Well, the traditional way to address it is with merger law, antitrust law. It says you can't merge if you're too big and powerful. And so there's kind of this open question, what is Biden going to do about antitrust law? And so far, he hasn't picked anyone to run the Federal Trade Commission or the antitrust division at DOJ, which is the people that run antitrust law. And he has some acting directors there. So I looked at what one of the acting directors, the person at the FTC, a woman named Rebecca Kelly Slaughter, what she is doing. And what's happening with her is she's talking a big game, particularly about pharmaceutical mergers, which they've never really blocked. But quietly on the side, waving through giant pharma mergers, and that's signaling to Wall Street, oh, Biden's not really serious about this. Everybody get your deal shoes on and let's go out and buy our competitors.
Where do merger booms come from? What causes them?
Well, when a boy merger and a girl merger. So what happens is it's generally a result of cheap capital. So this is really a result of the CARES Act, which was the bill to bail out the financial system during the pandemic, and the low interest rates. And so if you have low interest rates, it's not like there's low interest rates for you and me with credit cards, but if you're a deal maker, you can basically get money for 0% or 1%. And so there's a big incentive to borrow a bunch of money and go out and buy your competitor. Because, what else are you going to do with money? Build a factory? I mean, why would you build a factory? Why would you try to make more products if you can just buy a competitor and raise prices and make more money that way? So it's usually a result of financing. And then the other part of it is whether the merger laws are in effect. Because if you can't buy your competitors legally, then you're going to have to find something else to do. And for the last, 30 or 40 years, we really haven't enforced anti-merger laws. And so there's a big controversy now about whether we're going to do that. So deal makers were kind of like, they've got the money, and they were wondering if they were going to get the legal permission. And right now they have the legal permission to go ahead and buy their competitors. So then the question is kind of, is Biden going to continue this? Are they going to finally appoint people to the FTC and DOJ? Who are those people? Is Congress going to strengthen the antitrust laws? We don't know. We're pushing for it. That's what my group does. But so far, we're in the midst of this kind of ramping up merger boom that's consolidating wealth and power while no one is paying attention.
And Matt, let's just lay out again, which is that you called from the beginning that you thought that the pandemic was going to instigate a lot of mega mergers and lots of mergers. What is the harm, quote unquote, to all of us, right? Like, why should we care whether one company is the only thing that makes something? Why does it matter for people?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, well, a lot of reasons. Basically, it's everything. Okay, pharmaceutical prices are really, really high right now because we've consolidated the number of pharmaceutical firms, and they now have a lot more bargaining power against insurance companies, against pharmacy benefits managers, and against consumers. The same thing is true with hospitals. Hospital prices are way more expensive, twice as much as any other country because hospitals have consolidated and they bought physicians' practices. And when they do that, they raise prices. They stick administrative fees on there. All the little fun things that you get in your bill, the surprise bills, all of that is a result of consolidation. And that's true in every part of the economy. And then there's jobs. If you work for someone and you don't really have another place to go leave your employer, then you have fewer options, and so you can't bargain for better wages. Your employer can control you. And then if you want to start a business, like you have a good idea, or you want to create some sort of product or idea, then the smaller and smaller group of institutions that control these markets can block you. So, on the right, you see this where people come out with a book, and now there's only 4 publishers, which is still some, or 5, but they're trying to merge to 4. And increasingly, it's harder to get a diversity of books out there because there's just fewer publishers to get those books out there. And then, you got Amazon and Google and Facebook, and they're controlling the sinews of information. So really, it's a threat to our wages. It's a threat to our communities. It's a threat to being able to buy goods and services that we want and need. And it's a threat to our way of life.
Yeah, pervades every aspect of our society, whether we realize it or not. Matt, thank you so much for breaking this down.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
More Rising for you after this.